The alien granny's cookies were just the start. What she offered next shocked him. Ruud Callahan wasn't expecting anything extraordinary when he moved into the Stellar Heights apartment complex on New Terra Colony. The building, while luxurious, seemed like any other high-end residential tower, catering to both humans and alien species. But fate had other plans, beginning with a chance encounter that would change his life forever. It started with a knock on his door one lazy Sunday afternoon. Opening it, he found himself face-to-face with his next-door neighbor, a striking humanoid alien woman with pale silver skin that seemed to shimmer in the artificial lighting. Despite her apparent age, evidenced by partially gray hair, she carried herself with an unmistakable grace. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything," she said, her voice carrying a melodious quality that seemed common to her species. "I'm Lyla Silverweave. I hate to impose, but I could use some assistance with a few tasks around my apartment." Ruud found himself captivated by her bright red lips and the steel-silver eyes. She wore a floral-patterned dress with a neckline that hinted at an impressive figure for her age. "Of course," he replied, running a hand through his thick, dark brown beard. "I'd be happy to help." The task turned out to be simple enough: moving furniture, replacing some high-mounted light fixtures, and fixing a malfunctioning entertainment system. Throughout it all, Lyla proved to be an engaging conversationalist, sharing stories of her travels across the galaxy. "You must be exhausted," she said once they'd finished. "Please, let me thank you properly. I've just baked some cookies, an old family recipe." The cookies were unlike anything Ruud had ever tasted, sweet but with an exotic flavor he couldn't quite place. As they sat in her elegantly furnished living room, Lyla's expression turned playful. "You know," she said, leaning forward slightly, "there are other ways I could show my appreciation. My species ages quite differently from humans, and I've acquired quite a bit of experience over the years." Ruud nearly choked on his cookie. What? Oh, don't act so shocked," she laughed, the sound like crystal chimes. "I may be older, but I'm not dead, and I've always found human men particularly interesting." Ruud found himself studying her more carefully. Despite her age, there was an undeniable allure about her. Her silver skin seemed to glow with an inner light, and her movements held a fluid grace that spoke of confidence born from centuries of experience. "I'm flattered," he said carefully, his voice rougher than intended. "But I wouldn't want to take advantage." "Take advantage?" Lyla laughed again, standing with fluid grace. "My dear boy, I'm offering, not asking. And trust me, at my age, I know exactly what I want." She extended her hand. "Come, unless you're afraid." That sparked something in him. Ruud Callahan had never backed down from a challenge, and he wasn't about to start now. Taking her hand, he let her lead him to her bedroom. What followed was a night that defied his expectations in every way possible. Lyla proved that experience truly did count for everything, and her silver skin felt like silk beneath his fingers. Their passion burned hot and bright, leaving them both breathless and satisfied. The next morning, over a breakfast that materialized from her auto kitchen, Lyla smiled at him with those bright red lips. "That was thoroughly enjoyable, dear. But let's be clear, I'm not looking for anything permanent." "I understand," Ruud said, sipping what passed for coffee in the colonies. However," she continued, her steel-silver eyes twinkling, "I couldn't help but notice what a good man you are. Strong, kind, passionate. My granddaughter, Anila, is visiting next week. I think you two might hit it off rather well." Ruud nearly spat out his coffee. "Your granddaughter?" "Oh yes, she's quite lovely. Has my coloring, but with her own unique charm. She's been rather focused on her career in xenobotany, but I think it's time she met someone special." Lyla's smile turned mysterious. "Sometimes the best things in life come from unexpected places. Don't you agree?" The following morning, Ruud found himself humming as he prepared for work at the colony's engineering department. The previous night with Lyla had been unexpected but memorable. He'd just finished showering when his door chime sounded. Opening it revealed a breathtaking sight: a younger woman with the same silvery skin as Lyla, but with flowing platinum white hair and eyes like molten steel. She wore a form-fitting research uniform that highlighted her athletic figure. "I'm looking for my grandmother, Lyla," she said, then paused, her eyes widening as she took in Ruud's damp hair and half-buttoned shirt. "I'm Anila." "Ruud Callahan," he managed, suddenly very aware of his state of dress. "Lyla's next door, but..." At that moment, Lila's door opened, and she emerged wearing a silken robe. "Anila! Darling, you're early. I wasn't expecting you until next week." Anila's gaze flickered between Ruud and her grandmother, understanding dawning in those metallic eyes. A slight smirk played across her lips. "Clearly." "Come in, both of you," Lyla said, seemingly unfazed. "I'll make breakfast." The next hour proved to be one of the most surreal of Ruud's life. He sat at Lila's elegant dining table, watching grandmother and granddaughter interact while trying not to stare too obviously at Anila. Despite the potentially awkward situation, both women seemed perfectly at ease. "Grandmother always did have excellent taste," Anila remarked, sipping her morning beverage while giving Ruud an appraising look that made his collar feel tight. "And I've always believed in sampling life's pleasures before recommending them to others," Lyla replied with a wink. Ruud nearly choked on his coffee. "I should probably get to work." "Nonsense," Lyla said. "I already called your department. Told them you're helping me with some urgent maintenance issues. They were quite understanding." "You did what?" "Oh, don't look so shocked. I sit on the colony's administrative board, one of the perks of being a founding investor." Lila's eyes twinkled. "Besides, Anila needs someone to show her around the colony. She's considering transferring her research here." "What kind of research?" Ruud asked, grateful for a safe topic. "Xenobotanical engineering," Anila replied, leaning forward with enthusiasm. "I'm developing hybrid plants that can thrive in various colonial environments while producing enhanced oxygen and nutrients." As she spoke, Ruud found himself drawn in not just by her physical beauty, but by her obvious passion and intelligence. Her eyes lit up when discussing her work, and her hands moved expressively as she explained complex concepts. "The colony could certainly use that expertise," he said. "We've been having issues with our atmospheric processors lately." "Really?" Anila's eyes sparkled with interest. "What kind of issues?" Before he could respond, Lyla stood up. "Well, I have a board meeting to attend. Why don't you two continue this fascinating discussion over a tour of the colony? Anila needs to see the residential districts if she's going to relocate here." As they left Lila's apartment, Ruud couldn't help but feel he'd been expertly maneuvered. Yet watching Anila walk ahead of him, her platinum hair catching the light, he found it difficult to complain. The tour quickly evolved into an engaging discussion about colonial engineering and xenobotany. They visited the Environmental Control Center, where Ruud showed her the atmospheric processor systems. Anila's insights were impressive, and her suggestions for incorporating biological solutions made him see familiar problems in a new light. "You know," she said as they stood on an observation deck overlooking the colony's biodomes, "when grandmother told me about this handsome human engineer she wanted me to meet, I was skeptical. Finding out about your encounter didn't exactly help." Ruud winced. "About that? But," she continued, stepping closer, "I'm starting to understand what she saw in you. Besides the obvious physical attributes." Her hand brushed his arm, sending electricity through his body. "Anila, don't apologize," she said softly. "My people have different views on physical intimacy than humans. We believe in experiencing life fully, without artificial constraints. What matters is the connection formed." Their eyes met, and Ruud felt something shift between them, a spark of possibility, of potential. Without conscious thought, he found himself leaning closer. The kiss, when it came, was electric. Her lips were cool against his, but they quickly warmed as the kiss deepened. When they finally parted, both were breathing heavily. "My grandmother was right about another thing," Anila murmured, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest. "What's that?" "Human passion is intriguing." She stepped back, but her eyes promised more. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion somewhere more private." What followed was an afternoon of discovery and passion as they explored their mutual attraction with increasing intensity. Their physical connections seemed to amplify their intellectual rapport, creating something deeper than either had expected. The following week found Ruud and Anila sharing breakfast in Lila's luxurious apartment. The morning light streaming through the panoramic windows made Anila's silver skin shimmer like stardust, and Ruud couldn't help but marvel at how quickly she'd become an essential part of his life. Lyla breezed into the dining room, wearing an elegant morning robe. "Ah, young love," she said, her eyes twinkling as she set down a fresh batch of her famous cookies. "Did you know, Ruud, that our species has some fascinating biological peculiarities?" Anila's head snapped up. "Grandmother..." Oh, hush, dear. He should know. Lyla settled into her chair with graceful authority. You see, Ruud, silver-skinned females can only conceive during rare stellar alignments. It's quite fascinating, really. Our reproductive biology is tied to the cosmic dance of specific stars. Ruud nearly choked on his coffee. That's interesting? More than interesting, Lyla continued, ignoring her granddaughter's mortified expression. Such an alignment begins this week. It only happens once every few years. She gestured to the cookies. These aren't just ordinary treats, you know? They're made from an ancient recipe containing certain enhancers. Natural ones, of course. They've been in our family for generations. Grandmother, Anella's silver skin had taken on a distinct rosy tinge. You can't just what? Share our cultural heritage? Lyla's smile was innocent, but her eyes sparkled with mischief. Besides, I've seen how you two look at each other, and Ruud here has already proven himself quite compatible with our species. Ruud felt his face burning, but he couldn't deny the surge of interest her words provoked. He glanced at Anila, who was studying her plate intently, though he noticed her breathing had quickened slightly. The cookies, he said carefully, do they really… Oh yes, Lyla replied. They enhance natural attraction, increase fertility, and strengthen the bond between partners. But they only work if there's genuine compatibility. And from what I've observed, she let the sentence hang meaningfully. Anila finally looked up, meeting Ruud's gaze. The heat in her metallic eyes made his pulse quicken. Grandmother's right about the alignment, she said softly. It's why I came early. I felt it beginning. The pull of the stars, Lyla explained, standing. Well, I have another board meeting to attend. I'll leave you two to discuss astronomy. She paused at the door. Oh, and Ruud, do try the cookies. They're particularly potent when fresh. After she left, a charged silence filled the room. Ruud picked up one of the cookies, studying it. Your grandmother is quite something. Anila laughed, the tension breaking slightly. She's impossible, but she's usually right. She moved closer, taking the cookie from his hand and breaking it in half. Share it with me? The next few hours passed in a blur of sensation and discovery. The cookies did indeed have an effect, but it felt less like artificial enhancement and more like amplification of what was already there. Their passion found expression in increasingly intimate ways, each touch and kiss carrying the weight of possibility. Later, lying in Anila's bed, Ruud traced patterns on her silver skin, marveling at how it seemed to glow from within. Your grandmother planned this all along, didn't she? Probably, Anila murmured, curling closer. She's always 10 steps ahead, but I'm not complaining. She propped herself up on an elbow, her expression turning serious. The alignment is real, you know, and so are my feelings for you. Mine too, Ruud said, pulling her close. Though I have to admit, I never expected any of this when I first agreed to help your grandmother with her housework. Speaking of expectations, Anila said, a familiar glint entering her eye, there are still more cookies left. The next few days passed in a haze of passion and deepening connection. They explored each other in every way possible, their bodies and minds joining in an intimate dance as old as the stars themselves. The cookies, combined with the cosmic alignment, seemed to create a feedback loop of pleasure and possibility. Yet it wasn't just physical. Between their passionate encounters, they talked for hours about everything. Their hopes, fears, dreams for the future. Ruud found himself falling deeper in love with not just Anila's body, but her brilliant mind and passionate spirit. The morning after their passionate week of stellar alignment, Ruud awoke to find Anila standing by the bedroom window, her silver skin glowing with an unusual luminescence. She turned to him with tears of joy in her metallic eyes. It worked, she whispered. I can feel it. Our child, Ruud, was across the room in an instant, gathering her in his arms. The thought of creating new life with this extraordinary woman filled him with a joy he'd never known. Their celebration, however, was interrupted by an urgent comm alert. Ruud, his supervisor's voice crackled through. Emergency at the atmospheric processors. Someone sabotaged the main controls. We need you here now. As they rushed to the processing facility, Lyla contacted them. It's Stellar Dynamics, she said, her voice tight with concern. They've been trying to force a buyout of our colony for months. My sources on the board confirm they're behind this. The processing facility was chaos when they arrived. Warning lights flashed everywhere as technicians scrambled to maintain minimal life support. Ruud immediately dove into the control systems while Anila analyzed the biological components. "They've introduced a synthetic virus into the air purification system," Anila announced, studying her readings. "It's destroying the bacterial colonies we use to process carbon dioxide. And they've locked us out of the backup systems," Ruud added, his fingers flying over the controls. "Clever bastards." Lyla arrived looking every bit the powerful board member in her elegant business suit. "Stellar Dynamics just announced they're prepared to rescue our failing colony at a very reasonable price, of course." "Like hell they will," Ruud growled. His hands moved faster across the control panel, breaking through security protocols that would have taken others hours to crack. "Humanity didn't spread across the stars by giving up when things got tough." Anila touched his arm, her eyes shining with pride. "I think I can help. My research on hybrid plants. We can modify them to replace the bacterial colonies, but we'll need to get into the central chamber, which is currently flooded with toxic gas," Lyla pointed out. Ruud straightened, his jaw set. "Then I'll go in. My engineering suit can handle it." "Not alone," Anila insisted. "I need to be there to properly introduce the modified plants. I'll wear a suit too." "Absolutely not," Ruud protested. "You're carrying our child." Anila's silver skin flushed with determination. "The suits are rated for this, and our child is exactly why we need to save this colony." "Our home," Lyla stepped forward. "She's right, Ruud, and I didn't raise a coward for a granddaughter. Besides, she pulled out a small container of cookies. These aren't just fertility enhancers. They're also designed to protect mother and child during times of stress." Despite the situation, Ruud couldn't help but laugh. "Is there anything those cookies can't do?" "You'd be surprised," Lyla winked, then turned serious. "Now go. Save our home." The next hour was intense. Ruud and Anila worked in perfect sync, him keeping the systems running manually while she introduced her modified plants into the processing chamber. The toxic gas made visibility poor, and their suit oxygen ran dangerously low, but they persevered. "Human determination," Anila commented through their suit comms, "truly is remarkable. Most species would have given up by now." "Well," Ruud grunted, wrestling with a stuck valve, "your grandmother's cookies probably helped." Finally, Anila's plants began to take effect, cleaning the air faster than any bacterial colony. As the toxic gas levels dropped, Ruud managed to purge the virus from the system and restore full control. When they emerged from the chamber, exhausted but triumphant, they found Lyla dealing with colony security and several arrested Stellar Dynamics agents. "Attempted corporate sabotage," she said with satisfaction. "They'll be in prison for quite a while, and their stock is plummeting as we speak. I may just buy their company at a very reasonable price." Later that evening, as they recovered in Lyla's apartment, Ruud held Anila close, his hand resting protectively over her stomach. "I was so worried about you both in there." "I know," she smiled, "but I've never felt safer than with you protecting us, though grandmother's cookies probably helped too." "Speaking of which," Lyla interrupted, entering with a fresh batch, "these are special celebration cookies for saving the colony and," she smiled warmly, "for my first great-grandchild." 2 weeks after the atmospheric processor crisis, Ruud noticed something extraordinary. Anila's pregnancy was progressing at an unprecedented rate. Her silver skin now had an almost pearl-like quality, and her abdomen showed visible signs of their growing child. "It's normal for our species," Lyla explained during breakfast, serving another batch of her special cookies. "Silver skin pregnancies last only 3 months. But there's something else we need to discuss." Ruud paused mid-bite, recognizing the serious tone in her voice. "What is it?" "Our species carries genetic memory," Lyla began, settling into her favorite chair. "Knowledge passed down through generations. Usually, a grandmother transfers this knowledge to her grandchild during pregnancy. But with a hybrid child..." She glanced meaningfully at Anila's growing belly. "The process needs to be different," Anila finished, reaching for Ruud's hand. "More intensive," Lyla nodded. "Yeah, I need to transfer not just my knowledge, but my complete understanding of our biology, culture, and history. It's crucial for the child's development. And..." She hesitated. "I'm not getting any younger." "What exactly does this transfer involve?" Ruud asked, protective instincts kicking in. "Nothing dangerous," Lyla assured him. "Just a series of specialized treatments combined with my special recipe cookies. The cookies help facilitate the transfer through biochemical markers. It's completely natural, just accelerated. And what about the fortune you've mentioned? Anila asked. Lyla's eyes twinkled. That's part of it, dear. Our wealth isn't just in credits and properties, it's in knowledge. Centuries of accumulated wisdom about trading, investments, and survival. You'll need all of it to protect your child. The next few weeks were intense. Each day, Lyla shared more of her knowledge with Anila through carefully prepared meals and special treatments. Ruud watched in amazement as his partner seemed to grow more confident and assured, absorbing centuries of wisdom while their child grew within her. It's remarkable, he said one evening, holding Anila close. You're practically glowing. It's more than just knowledge, she explained, running her fingers through his beard. Grandmother is sharing everything. Her experiences, her understanding, her love for life, and she smiled mischievously. Some rather interesting techniques she thinks might interest you. Their lovemaking that night was particularly passionate, incorporating some of Lyla's shared wisdom in ways that left them both breathless and amazed. The next morning, Lyla called them to her private study. The room was filled with ancient artifacts and modern tech in equal measure. It's time for the final transfer, she announced. But first, Ruud, I need to share something with you. She pressed a button, and a holographic display filled the room with financial data. This is my true legacy, controlling interest in 12 major corporations, including Stellar Dynamics, which I acquired after their failed attack. Properties on 37 colonies. And patents for technologies your people haven't even dreamed of yet, Ruud whistled. That's quite a portfolio. Indeed, and it's all going to you and Anila. But more importantly, Lyla's eyes softened. I want you to know that meeting you was no accident. I've watched humanity for centuries, waiting for the right person, someone with the strength, compassion, and determination to help lead our peoples forward. You planned all this? Ruud asked, amazed. I planned the possibility, Lyla corrected. But the love between you and Anila, that was all your own doing. Those cookies might enhance what's there, but they can't create genuine feelings. The final transfer took place over 3 days. Lyla shared her remaining knowledge while teaching them both how to manage their new responsibilities. She showed them secret recipes, including the famous cookies, explaining how each ingredient served a specific purpose in promoting health, fertility, and mental acuity. The cookies were just the beginning, she told Ruud with a wink. Wait until you see what else I have planned for your future. As the transfer neared completion, Lyla's energy began to fade. It's time, she announced one evening. Our people choose when to leave this world, and I've chosen my moment. I've lived a full life, loved deeply, and now I'll leave knowing our legacy is secure. Grandmother, no, Anila protested, tears in her eyes. Hush, dear, Lyla smiled. This is our way. Besides, she patted Anila's rounded belly, I'll live on in your memories and in this little one. Ruud, she turned to him. Take care of them, and remember, humanity's greatest strength isn't in your technology or determination, though those are impressive. It's in your capacity for love. The knowledge transfer had unexpected effects on Anila's pregnancy. One morning, Ruud awoke to find her silver skin pulsing with an intense inner light, her body temperature significantly elevated. Something's different, Anila whispered, her metallic eyes wide with concern. The baby, it's growing too fast. Lyla arrived within minutes of their call, still very much alive and vibrant, carrying a fresh batch of specially modified cookies. The human silver skin combination is creating unique reactions, she explained, examining Anila. Your child is developing hybrid traits we didn't anticipate. Is it dangerous? Ruud asked, holding Anila's hand. Not dangerous, Lyla assured them, but challenging. The baby is drawing energy from both genetic lines simultaneously. We need to balance the human and silver skin aspects. She pulled out her datapad, displaying complex biochemical readings. Your human DNA, Ruud, is remarkably adaptable. It's actually enhancing our silver skin traits rather than conflicting with them. Fascinating. That's great, Ruud said dryly, but how do we help Anila? Lyla's eyes twinkled. Well, for starters, these cookies contain specialized nutrients that should help stabilize the energy flow. But there's something else needed, something uniquely human. What's that? Anila asked, accepting a cookie. Physical intimacy, Lyla stated matter-of-factly. Human touch has properties our species finds Stabilizing. Particularly during pregnancy. Why do you think I arranged that first night with you, Ruud? I needed to test your compatibility. Ruud blushed, but Anila laughed. Grandmother, you're incorrigible. I prefer strategic, Lyla winked. Now I'll leave you two alone. Regular contact will help regulate the baby's development. I'll be in my study working on adjusting the cookie recipe. Over the next few days, Ruud and Anila found that Lyla's advice was spot on. Their intimate moments seemed to calm the intense energy surges, bringing Anila's pregnancy back to a more manageable pace. Their lovemaking took on an almost therapeutic quality, though neither complained about the treatment. Your grandmother, Ruud said one evening, holding Anila close, is either the most brilliant or most devious woman I've ever met. Both, Anila smiled, tracing patterns on his chest. Definitely both. Lyla continued to monitor their progress, adjusting her cookie recipes and providing guidance. She seemed to take particular delight in suggesting new ways for them to stabilize the pregnancy, some of which made even Anila blush. Your human resilience is remarkable, Lyla commented to Ruud one morning, reviewing the latest scans. Most species would struggle with the energy demands, but you seem to thrive on it. Humanity's greatest strength, Ruud grinned, is our stamina. The pregnancy stabilized over the following weeks, settling into a rhythm that balanced both species' traits. The baby developed at a pace slightly faster than human normal, but slower than pure silver skin, giving them time to prepare. Lyla threw herself into preparations with enthusiasm, converting part of her massive apartment into a nursery filled with both human and silver skin traditional items. She also continued to teach them about managing their future responsibilities, though she showed no signs of planning to leave them anytime soon. The cookies were just the beginning, she told them one evening, serving a new batch. Wait until you see what I've planned for the baby shower. One morning, as Ruud and Anila enjoyed their now routine breakfast with Lyla, the elderly silver-skinned woman set down her teacup with unusual solemnity. Her eyes gleamed with that familiar mix of mischief and wisdom that usually preceded another surprising revelation. There's something we need to discuss, Lyla announced, sliding a fresh plate of cookies across the table. These aren't my usual recipe. They're ceremonial cookies, traditionally served during the ritual of stellar unity. The what now? Ruud asked, pausing mid-reach. It's an ancient silver skin ceremony, Anila explained, her metallic eyes widening with recognition. Grandmother, are you suggesting... Indeed. Lyla's red lips curved into a smile. Your child is the first natural human silver skin hybrid in recorded history. According to our oldest traditions, such a union qualifies for the ceremony. It's not magical nonsense, she added, noting Ruud's skeptical expression. It's a sophisticated biochemical bonding process that strengthens family connections. And what exactly does this ceremony involve? Ruud asked, cautiously taking a cookie. 3 nights of ritualized intimacy, Lyla explained matter-of-factly, combined with specially prepared nutrients. Yes, more cookies, and specific environmental conditions. The process helps align the hybrid child's dual genetic heritage. Ruud nearly choked on his cookie. 3 nights of what now? Oh, don't look so shocked, Lyla laughed. You two certainly haven't been shy about intimacy so far. This is simply more structured. The ceremony requires the parents to share physical pleasure while focusing on their emotional connection and hopes for their child's future. Anila's silver skin flushed with a pearlescent sheen. Grandmother, you're embarrassing him. Nonsense. Humans are remarkably adaptable, especially regarding pleasure. Isn't that right, Ruud? Lyla's knowing smile made him blush harder. The ceremony takes place in a special chamber, she continued, pulling up holographic blueprints of what appeared to be an elaborate suite. Temperature, lighting, and atmospheric composition are precisely controlled to enhance the experience. The ceremonial cookies contain compounds that increase sensitivity and emotional awareness. And you just happen to have this chamber ready? Ruud asked. Of course. I had it installed years ago, hoping for exactly this situation. Lyla's eyes twinkled. I told you the cookies were just the beginning. Over the next few days, Lyla guided them through the ceremony preparations. Each evening, she presented them with different varieties of ceremonial cookies, each designed to prepare their bodies and minds for the ritual. These enhance emotional receptivity, she explained one night, serving cookies that seemed to shimmer in the light. These strengthen physical stamina, she said the next evening, presenting treats that gave off a subtle warmth. And these, she winked on the third night, well, you'll discover their effects soon enough. The ceremony itself proved to be an extraordinary experience. The chamber's environment shifted subtly throughout each night, creating an atmosphere that heightened every sensation. The ceremonial cookies worked in ways that made their usual passionate encounters seem tame by comparison. Human stamina really is remarkable, Lyla commented after the second night, reviewing the chamber's biological readings. Most species would be exhausted by now. Grandmother, Anela exclaimed, though she couldn't hide her satisfied smile. Just stating facts, dear, Lyla replied innocently. The data doesn't lie. By the third night, Ruud and Anela had achieved a level of intimacy that transcended the physical. Their connection felt deeper, more profound, as if they could sense each other's thoughts and emotions. The ceremony is working better than expected, Lyla observed, studying her instruments. The baby's genetic markers are stabilizing beautifully. Human DNA really is remarkably compatible with ours. Is that unusual? Ruud asked, holding Anela close. Very. Most species' genetic patterns resist integration with ours, but humans... Lyla's expression turned thoughtful. Your adaptability is truly extraordinary. It's as if your species evolved to be compatible with others. The ceremony concluded with another special batch of cookies, these designed to seal the bond they'd formed. As they shared the treats, Lyla watched them with obvious satisfaction. You know, she said, when I first invited you to my bedroom, Ruud, I had high hopes. But this... She gestured to their entwined hands, Anela's growing belly. This exceeds even my most optimistic predictions. The morning after completing the ceremony, Ruud woke to an unusual sensation. He could feel Anela's contentment before he even opened his eyes, as if her emotions were flowing directly into his mind. More surprisingly, he sensed their unborn child's presence. A warm, pulsing awareness nestled between them. Fascinating, Lyla remarked, serving breakfast in her elegant dining room. Today's cookies had a subtle iridescent sheen. The ceremony has created an empathic bond between you. It's rare even among pure silver skins. But with human neuroplasticity, she grinned. Well, you continue to surprise me. Is it permanent? Ruud asked, absently reaching for Anela's hand, drawn by her mix of excitement and uncertainty. That depends entirely on you two, Lyla replied. The connection requires regular reinforcement. Her eyes twinkled. Physical intimacy strengthens it, as do these specially formulated cookies. They contain compounds that enhance neural synchronization. Anela took a bite of her cookie, and Ruud suddenly tasted sweetness on his own tongue. That's different, he managed. The shared sensations will take some getting used to, Lyla acknowledged, but they can be quite pleasurable when properly explored. Her knowing smile made both of them blush. Over the next few days, they learned to navigate their new connection. It proved particularly intense during intimate moments, creating feedback loops of shared pleasure that left them breathless and amazed. The baby's presence in their shared awareness grew stronger, responding to their emotions with pulses of contentment. Human capacity for adaptation is remarkable, Lyla observed, monitoring their progress. Most species would struggle with such intense neural sharing, but you seem to thrive on it, Ruud. It's certainly making things interesting, he replied, feeling Anela's amusement at his understatement. Lyla continued to provide specially crafted cookies, each batch designed to help them explore different aspects of their connection. Some enhanced emotional awareness, others heightened physical sensations, and some, served with a particularly mischievous smile, did both. The cookies were just the beginning, she reminded them. This bond opens up possibilities I hadn't dared hope for. The child will be born with a deep connection to both heritage lines. One evening, as they relaxed in the apartment's garden terrace, Ruud felt an unexpected surge of movement through their bond. Anela gasped, placing her hand on her rounded belly. "The baby's kicking!" she exclaimed. Through their connection, Ruud felt not just the physical sensation, but their child's burst of joy at making its presence known. Lyla appeared with a new batch of cookies, these glowing with a soft, pearl-like luminescence. A perfect timing, these will help you focus the bond on the baby's development. Though, she added with a sly smile, they have some rather pleasant side effects. The cookies enhance their awareness of each other and their child to new levels. Their subsequent lovemaking took on an almost transcendent quality. their shared pleasure amplified by their deep emotional connection and the baby's contentment. "I never imagined anything like this," Ruud admitted later, holding Anila close while their child's awareness pulsed happily between them. "Few do," Lyla said, entering with her usual impeccable timing and another plate of cookies. "Human silver skin compatibility is unprecedented. Your species' adaptability combined with our biological sophistication." She smiled proudly. "You're creating something entirely new." "And the cookies?" Ruud asked, reaching for one. "Oh, these are special," Lila's eyes gleamed. "They'll help prepare you for the next phase of the pregnancy. The baby's hybrid nature means the birth will require perfect synchronization between you both. Consider this: practice." The cookies' effects proved intense, heightening their connection to near-overwhelming levels. Their passion that night reached new heights, their shared sensations creating cascading waves of pleasure that left them both dazed and euphoric. Ruud first noticed the technical anomalies during a routine systems check at the colony's engineering center. The atmospheric processors were operating at 110% efficiency, technically impossible without upgrades. More puzzling, the efficiency peaked whenever he and Anila were particularly close. "Fascinating," Lyla remarked when he reported the phenomenon, serving a new batch of cookies that seemed to pulse with a subtle rhythm. "Silver skin biology naturally resonates with certain energy frequencies. Combined with human bioelectric fields," she grinned. "Well, you two are literally generating power through passion." "That's impossible," Ruud protested, though his engineering mind was already analyzing the possibilities. "Impossible?" Lyla raised an elegant eyebrow. "Like a human silver skin pregnancy? Like your empathic bond? My dear boy, you're redefining impossible daily." The cookies, as usual, had unexpected effects. These ones seemed to enhance their awareness of the energy fields around them. Ruud could feel the hum of the colony's systems, while Anila sensed the subtle vibrations of organic matter. "The baby's causing this," Anila realized, her hand resting on her rounded belly. "It's combining both our traits in ways we never imagined." Their intimate moments now had an additional dimension. They could feel their energy affecting the colony's systems, creating harmonic resonances that enhanced everything from life support to power generation. "We need to control this," Ruud said, his engineering expertise kicking in. "If someone notices the power fluctuations—" "Already handled," Lyla announced, pulling up complex technical diagrams. "I've been modifying the colony's monitoring systems to mask the anomalies. As far as anyone can tell, we're just experiencing a streak of exceptional efficiency." She served another batch of cookies, these ones crackling with tiny sparks of static electricity. "These should help you learn to modulate the effect. Though," she added with a wink, "they have some rather enjoyable side benefits." The side benefits became apparent during their next passionate encounter. Their shared pleasure created cascading waves of energy that made the room's electronics pulse in harmony. Even their empathic bond seemed enhanced, every sensation amplified and shared between them. "Human adaptability continues to amaze me," Lyla commented the next morning, reviewing the power grid readings. "You're not just accepting these changes, you're optimizing them." Ruud had indeed found ways to channel their unique energy signature. He installed subtle modifications throughout the colony's systems, using their resonance to enhance everything from water purification to waste recycling. "The cookies were just the start," Lyla reminded them, serving yet another specialized batch. "These will help you fine-tune your control, though I suspect you'll enjoy the calibration process." She wasn't wrong. Each practice session brought them closer together, their shared pleasure harmonizing with the colony's systems in increasingly sophisticated ways. Their lovemaking became a symphony of passion and power, their energy feeding both their bond and their home. "We're going to need to expand the power grid," Ruud noted one evening, studying the efficiency readings. "We're generating more energy than the current systems can handle." "Already in progress," Lyla smiled, bringing out architectural plans. "I've been investing in infrastructure upgrades. Officially, we're preparing for colony expansion. Unofficially," she gestured to Anila's growing belly, "we're preparing for our little power plant." The next few weeks saw them learning to control their unique abilities while maintaining their privacy. Lila's cookies helped them develop ever finer control, though their passionate moments still occasionally caused unexplained power surges. "Think of it as practice," Lyla suggested, serving cookies that made their skin tingle with static electricity. "The baby will likely have similar effects. Better to master this now." Their practice sessions became increasingly creative, combining pleasure with purpose as they learned to channel their energy into specific systems. The colony's efficiency ratings hit record highs, though only they knew the true cause. It happened during one of their intimate moments, their shared passion resonating with the colony systems in perfect harmony. Lyla suddenly gasped, not from pleasure, but from a different sensation altogether. Through their bond, Ruud felt it too. Their child was ready to enter the world. Perfect timing, Lyla announced, appearing with her usual impeccable timing and a special batch of cookies that seemed to pulse with starlight. These will help with the birth. They're my final recipe, perfected over centuries for just this moment. The colony's systems responded to their combined energy signature, creating optimal conditions in the medical bay. Lights dimmed to a comfortable glow, temperature adjusted automatically, and even the air composition shifted to support both human and silver skin biology. The cookies were just the start, Lyla reminded them, her eyes twinkling despite the intensity of the moment. Everything I've done from that first night to now was leading to this. The birth itself was remarkable. Their shared bond allowed Ruud to experience every moment with Lyla, their combined strength making the process almost graceful. The colony's power grid hummed in harmony with their energy, creating a subtle aurora effect that painted the sky above the dome in sheets of silver and gold. When their son finally arrived, his first cry sent a pulse of energy through the colony systems that briefly boosted every efficiency rating to maximum. His skin had a unique pattern, mostly silver like his mother's, but with subtle vanillations that caught the light like his father's tanned complexion. His eyes, when they opened, were a striking combination of human warmth and silver skin luminescence. Rael, Anala whispered, the silver skin word for starlights feeling perfect for their luminous child. A fitting name, Lyla agreed, watching the baby already beginning to affect nearby electronics with his hybrid energy signature. He's perfect, true harmony of both species. Over the next few days, as they adjusted to parenthood, Lyla began sharing her final secrets. She taught them ancient silver skin recipes, including every vanillation of her famous cookies. She showed them how to manage their vast financial empire, revealing connections and investments spanning dozens of worlds. It's time, she announced one evening, serving a batch of cookies that sparkled like diamonds. I've seen my greatest dream realized, the beginning of true harmony between our species. Now I can rest. Grandmother, no, Anula protested, holding Rael closer. My dear ones, Lyla smiled, her silver skin glowing with contentment. This is our way. We choose our moment when our work is complete. And mine, she gazed lovingly at her great-grandson, is more successful than I ever imagined. She spent the next week teaching them everything they needed to know. Business strategies, political alliances, and secret technologies she'd developed over centuries. She showed them how to harness their unique energy signature to benefit not just their colony, but potentially all of human and silver skin space. Your love, she told them, is more than just a personal connection. It's proof that our species are meant to work together, to create something greater than either could achieve alone. Finally, on a quiet evening, as auroras danced overhead, caused by Rael's happy energy pulses, Lyla announced she was ready. She arranged herself elegantly on her bed, wearing her favorite floral dress with the plunging neckline. My final gift, she said, presenting them with one last batch of cookies, these somehow incorporating all the colors of the aurora above. So these will help you remember everything, the lessons, the love, the legacy. Share them with Rael when he's older, so he'll know how it all began. With cookies? Ruud asked, managing a smile despite his tears. With cookies, Lyla laughed. But they were just the start. Look what they led to. True love, a miraculous child, and hope for both our species. Her eyes sparkled one last time. Not bad for an old woman's baking, wouldn't you say? She passed peacefully in her sleep that night, her silver skin shimmering with contentment. Above the colony, the auroras blazed in tribute, powered by the combined energy of their grief and gratitude. In the years that followed, Ruud and Anila continued Lyla's work, using their unique abilities and vast resources to bridge their two species. Rael grew into a remarkable child, combining the best of both worlds, human adaptability and silver skin sophistication, and every evening they shared special cookies, remembering the extraordinary woman who had started it all with a simple invitation and a plate of treats that turned out to be just the beginning of an amazing journey.